from a big picture standpoint, the wave through Iraq, it had pretty much been taken over and stabilized, relatively speaking. And so you guys kind of set the tone for setting up FOBs and more static operating bases, even if they were super rudimentary, and really started doing kind of the soft mission of gathering intel, doing actions based on that resetting and doing that, which turned into kind of how it went for the rest of the entire campaign. From that deployment in particular, obviously you did, five deployments to Iraq. Can you kind of walk us through each of those deployments, the ones that are worth talking about from a combat standpoint? Because I think, to paint the picture of such a wide swath of experience there from the very early days all the way until it was pretty well wound down.
Yeah. And
kind of walk us through that whole cascade of combat.
Yeah. So, 03 was, Wild West. We got there, we were still kind of, Team 3, you guys had pushed up north. We were kind of doing a mini workup in Kuwait, because we'd taken custody of all those DPVs that, like, a lot of them had a lot of issues with them. So we were repairing a bunch of shit, and we're kind of doing some integration with some of the Team 3 guys that had stayed behind. They threw them in our platoon, and we were kind of plussed up. We were golf platoon, but we were still kind of called the mobility platoon. And so we're kind of, wrenching on those vehicles and stuff, and then the bubble goes up to, like, hey, you guys are going to take these two vehicles, and you're going to take over this dam. And it was up on the kind of 20 clicks from the Iranian border, but it was up north, kind of same latitude as like Tikrit. It's called the Mukharayan hydroelectric dam. And we had Delta platoon, which was Spencer Calvin's platoon. Steve Ward was the platoon chief, and then we had the Grom. So we had the Polish Grom with us, and we had a bunch of JTACs. We had our task unit commander. We had I don't even want to say his name because he might still be in, but if he is, he's an admiral or something. But good dude. Our TU commander for that pump was an awesome dude. So we take 6 Pablo helicopters, these 53s, take off from Ali Salim. I think we either refueled once or twice, like getting up to this area. So 2 of the birds had, we had one 6-seater DPV, and then the other one had a 3-seater. And I don't know if people know what those DPVs are, but they're like these dune buggies. They look cool as shit.
Yeah, like Mad Max.
Yeah,
but they
literally.
suck.
They fucking suck.
Yeah.
And we were literally they're like 1980s technology. They got these VW bugs, engines in them. They're air cooled, but they're also carbureted. So like if you go to a lot of dudes found out when they took them to Afghanistan, you go to a higher altitude, now you need to rejet these carburetors just to get the proper air fuel mixture and stuff. And so just to get these things to run right it's a fucking chore. And no one knows how to utilize them the proper way. They see these dune buggies, like, oh, these things are fucking badass. They weigh 1,500 pounds, and it's got a 50 cal up top. The driver, is the driver, and then the passenger has, you need to put like a Mark 19 or a 240 or a 60 or whatever, but it's not a turret. So to turn these things, it's like you have to point the nose of the vehicle. The 50 cal is like this much, So we basically utilizing these things. Everybody feels like, oh, it's a vehicle. We'll stack 3,000 pounds of fucking gear on these things and they'll operate with impunity. And they're like, no, you put 500 pounds of gear on them. They're still gonna probably operate within their range, but any more than that, they're gonna be bogged down. They're gonna fucking, they're gonna be slugs, which is essentially what they they learned during like the Al and so they had so much fucking weight on them. They like pull them out of the bird and they just sink right into the mud. And you know, they're two-wheel vehicles, so they're momentum-based vehicles versus a traction-based vehicle. So like the Humvees are traction-based because they're four-wheel drive, and you can brake throttle modulate them up a fucking side of a cliff if you have to. Versus these things, you relying on speed to get you up and over like a rise. So you kind of have to plan accordingly when you're driving these things, or you're going to get stuck, and then you have to inevitably call a Humvee come pull you fucking out. You know, so. We realized early on that these things weren't gonna fucking work for what we were doing. They look cool as shit. The intimidation factor is really cool. Yeah. So ultimately, we had two helos with these two DPVs in them. We had Hotel Platoon in one bird. We had the Grom in one bird, and then we had our CSAR platform with a bundle because we were gonna keep this dam for an extended amount of time. So it had a you know, water, food, and ammo on it. So we get to this area, all the birds, you know, had their pre-designed drop zone locations where we're going to land. The Delta guys were fast roping onto the dam itself with the C2, our task unit commander, and the whole, you know, JTAC and everything. We had a pretty big cast stack overhead, which was awesome, and we had two AC-130s that were going to come in, and you know, one was going to be on station, and another it would, you know, pumpkin at whatever time, and another one would be on station. But all the intel said like, yeah, there's nothing around this place. There's no anti-aircraft guns. There's no, you know, there's no major resistance. But we still came like loaded to bear, you know. The Grom, they were fast roping on. There was a bunch of outbuildings around this dam. So they were going to take all these outbuildings, and they actually had one dude that fast roped in and fucking broke his fucking leg. So he had to get pulled out with the CSAR bird. So the two DPVs come in, and you know, we did all these rehearsals with the crew chief of the bird. We did all these rehearsals of vehicles like, you know, bird lands, the vehicles pull off real slow. The crew chief's like a plane captain with his flashlights going this way, like. So we did all these rehearsals where this dude gets off the bird and he's like moving us out off the fucking helicopter. And then when we actually do it, we land, like come in, it's like boom. We're like, holy fuck, did we just crash? I mean, these dudes come in, these Air Force pilots come in, and they like touch down, and like the fucking crew chief just like a dude on an aircraft carrier is like, go! We're like, what the fuck? Yes. Just like take off, like rip one of the fenders off. We're like, Jesus Christ, dude, the helo's gone. They're like, fuck this, we're out of here. So pull both the birds off, take over the whole compound. Everything worked great. Next morning, we're driving around because now we have these vehicles that are our little scout vehicles. Dude, we found like 15 twin 37 millimeter anti-aircraft guns that were all over this place. That were loaded, they were locked and loaded, ready to fire. And luckily, nobody was there to shoot because they would have blown us all out of the fucking sky. And all the intel told us like, nope, nothing around. And we had these two AC-130s overhead that were just like, yeah, we don't see anything on the ground. We're like,
how did they miss that?
Fuck if I know. But shit was crazy. So we kept the dam for 5 days till the Marines came and we relieved with them. Another weird, for instance, like, which was one of those administrative things that you never think would ever happen in a war zone. We're getting ready to get out of there, and by then, like, the three-seater had to be, I think the three-seater reverse had stopped fucking working. So typically you back them onto the bird, so when the bird lands, you just drive it off. So we couldn't back it on. We had to pull it on forward. And then the six-seater, the engine had just fucking grenaded. We're like, well, that thing is fucked. So we had to push that fucker on the bird. But before that, they told us we were going from the dam. We were going to land at BIOP at Baghdad International. and that's where the new soda AP was. So before we go there, they had sent one. And meanwhile, workers showed up the next day. So when we took over this dam, the next day, all the workers showed up like nothing had fucking happened. And we're sitting there holding this dam over. We had these people show up and they're like, "Hey, we're here for work." And we're like, "What the fuck?" They're like, get the fuck out of here. Like, we're closed for business, you know? And they had been running on such slow, like, skeleton crew. Like, they weren't running the dam at full capacity. Like, they had essentially, like, shut everything down. Like, it was basically just a skeleton crew. So once they realized that we were there, and word travels fast, like, dude, everybody showed up for work. And like, no, we want to get this thing running again. We want to provide power for the area. Like, we've been without power for so long. And I think that was one of those things with the Ba'athist and Saddam. He just, you have an uprising, and he would be like, oh, you want to protest what's going on? Well, fuck you. Now you don't have any power in your house, And he was just like, nope, shut everything down. No. So, and part of the, when we attacked from the very beginning, obviously they're going to shut all the infrastructure down to make sure it doesn't get fucking damaged. And that's kind of the reason they want us to take over this dam, because they said if it fell into the wrong hands, because they had this huge lake that powered the hydroelectric dam. But they were like, man, if somebody blows this fucking levee, it's going to flood the entire Baghdad Valley. And they're like, man, there's just going to be like probably millions of people that would die with all this fucking water. And then it was going to fuck everything up more so than it already was, I guess. But so, yeah, before we get off the ground, one of our lieutenants had sent one of the workers into town and had bought a bunch of disposable razors, because we're going back into Baghdad, and they're like, everybody needs to shave. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, what? Like, to be worried about a specific thing, you had a group of dudes we'd been out in the field for at least 5 days, probably 6 days with the night before. And whatever growth you have, 6 days worth of growth on your face. And like, that's the first thing they're worried about. They're like, we've got to make sure everybody shaves. So dudes are like shaving dry, like your face is like covered in fucking bumps and shit. And so then we fly into Baghdad. Fucking birds are like banking and fucking bobbing and weaving and shit. We're seeing fucking chaff being shot off the back of these fucking birds. Almost get blown out of the sky by one of those fucking Patriot batteries because somebody wasn't talking. They thought it was a Scud missile coming in. So almost get blown out of the fucking sky. We finally land. We're like, Jesus, well, good thing we fucking shaved. There's literally nobody even knows that we're there. We land right next to Gold Squadron from Dam Neck was there, and I knew some dudes there. We walk over to their hangar, start talking to the dudes. They're showing us all the fucking bounty that they've acquired, all the fucking cool. Hey, check this out. Check out these rugs. Hey, look at these gold fucking 45 pistols and these gold AKs and like just all this fucking shit, that they had fucking snagged. And
you got a fresh shave to
yeah, and I'm shaved, got fucking bumps all over my face. But the cool thing was, dude, the Damnet guys, they have a huge, their support guys. They'll do anything. They'll bend over backwards. So they came and they literally grabbed a vehicle. They came over and they towed both of our DPVs over their hangar. They had the fucking 6-seater up and running within like a couple of hours. And it was running on like 2 cylinders, but at least we could power it and it wasn't like totally fucked at that point. I think what had happened is it dropped 2 cylinders and then broken the fucking connecting rods or some bullshit. So essentially, I don't know what they did, but we got the thing running. There was no real hope for the 3-seater in terms of like getting it to be able to put it in reverse, but that wasn't really a huge concern. Like, well, at least we have both vehicles running now. And we fucking hung out in Baghdad. Essentially, I don't think we ever went back. Oh no, I take that back. We did go back to Ali Salim because they basically were like, hey, pack everything up, grab all your shit. We're going to BIOP. So we get into BIOP. Wild West, we had a great, phenomenal deployment. Like, we didn't realize how great it was while we were there because, I mean, just running op after op after op. Like, we were sending after action reports back, and we would get emails from dudes back at like, Team 7 had been stood up at that point. Team 1, even the Team 3 guys were just like, you fucking cocks. Like, we paved the way for you guys, and now, I mean, we were crushing it. Like, every night, going in, kicking doors in. I got this Alibaba tattoo because I remember at one point, we're going in, you're blowing doors off hinges, you're going in there, you're taking down these houses, and we would come out of the house and we'd have our HVT, this huge intel network of like the agency dudes were just handing us target packages. They're like, hey, go get this guy, go get this guy, go get this guy. So we're just rolling these dudes up. When we come out of the town or come out of the house and you listen out in town and people are up on the rooftops just yelling, Alibaba, Alibaba. And we're like, what the fuck? And so we asked our interpreter, like, what are they saying? And he's like, Alibaba. We're like, well, what the fuck's that mean? He goes, it means thief. So then, of course, I'm like, duh, Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. I was like, okay, give me some context here. And he goes, they don't know that you're blowing in doors and kidnapping people out of their house in the middle of the night. They think you're looting these houses. So they think you're fucking up the place. Oh, shit. And so we're like, oh shit. Like, yeah, how the fuck would they know we're doing God's work? But so it was crazy. Yeah. So I was like, that's pretty cool though. They were, their whole network was like, hey, there's looters over here. Yeah. And so yeah, we drove all over Iraq. That deployment, I mean, we were driving the Grom, we were driving the platoon guys. Typically, we're setting up external security, doing most of that shit, providing overwatches for when dudes would go in the houses and stuff. And then we were working with the agency guys, so we're escorting them all over the fucking place. And like there's a couple instances where we went out in the middle of the desert when they talk about there were no weapons of mass destruction. Well, they'd found these silos out in the western desert, like past Ramadi, like I want to say it's like southwest of like Ramadi because it was further down. And we found these giant silos. They're like 3 feet in diameter, and they'd go way up in the air. And they had these elements, like the one we found. It had cesium-137, which was essentially a radioactive material. And so they would hoist these elements up in these silos, and then Saddam would march his own fucking troops through this area. He would radiate his own troops, and then his troops would essentially be in these open bay barracks, and then they would die. They would record the symptoms, and basically you're giving these dudes radiation poisoning and go, yeah, these guys are fucked up. You don't want to do this. Sometime between when the war kicked off, this one silo, again, I think there were like, I don't know how many there were. There were more than like 10. There were probably like 10 or 15 of these. Well, this one silo with the cesium in it, because when it's up in the air, it's just radiating. And then when it comes down, it's in this lead-lined bunker. So I think at some point when the war kicked off, somebody got into one of these bunkers because they're kind of underground. And somebody probably left one unlocked or some shit. They go in there and they're trying to get into this bunker. I'm guessing it's people who didn't know what the fuck was out there. They pry this bunker open, and this fucking element, which I want to say was like the size of like a softball or some shit. They're fucking around with it, not knowing what it is. It falls into the fucking floor of the bunker itself. So now it's radiating all over the fucking place. Well, we have apparently, I don't know if this is common knowledge, but planes or satellites or something that can detect all this fucking shit. I guess any kind of major radiation. And so the agency guys were like, hey, we need to go out in the fucking desert and figure out what the fuck this is. And I think they had already pretty much known what it was. And one of the dudes on our group, we had one of our EOD guys, a good dude, but he had this beeper that was strapped to his leg. And anytime you get radiation, it vibrates. So anyways, we follow these guys out. We're in thin-skinned Humvees. These guys are in like up-armored Toyota Land Cruisers and shit. Drive out there, and as soon as he goes to step out of the vehicle, he's like, oh shit. He goes, hey, we're getting fucking radiated right here. The AG guys are like, no, couldn't be. They like pull out all their gadgets and shit. They're like, oh shit. Like, yeah, go back behind those buildings over there. So we all fucking drive back, get behind these fucking buildings where it's another silo with another bunker that we're hiding behind. These guys get all dressed up in their fucking suits, look like painters with giant fucking helmets and fucking look like the Michelin Man. Yeah. They go in, they take this fucking element that's been essentially laying in the fucking floor and throw it back in the bunker, the lead-lined bunker, and basically secure everything to where it's not going to fall on the floor anymore. But yeah, that was one of the weird ops where, like, no one would ever fucking believe you. You know, you're like, dude.
I'm not sure I believe you.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy.